Hey, what's up, y'all? Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast, episode number 142, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. I'm recording this on Tuesday at approximately 9:18 a.m. Central Time, 2020. A lot going on, to say the least, right? A lot going on, man. So we're going to dig into some of what's going on. I want to share some fact data with you on today's episode. I want to talk about what's going on and things that you can be doing right now to prepare yourself for what is unpredictable to come, but is likely to come. And then I want to talk some about what we all can do once we get past this pandemic. We know that trouble don't last always, and neither do pandemics. And so what happens once we get past all of this? And I'll give my prediction on when I think, in my opinion, which I know people don't like to say on social media these days, but in my opinion, those three words, when I think that we will get through this pandemic locally, nationally, and internationally. So that's the rundown today on the podcast. So we're going to get right to it. So here's the deal. For those that are listening to the recorded podcast, forgive me because I'm actually going to share something with those that are watching the video. So if you want to check the video out, make sure you go to YouTube and check out the video version of today's episode, and you'll be able to see this. But I want to share something with you all that is kind of mind-blowing, just to say the least. Okay? Let's do this. All right. So based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, okay, information came out this past Friday, as it normally does for the previous month, around employment. So we're talking about unemployment. In the month of March, so March 2020, we went from 1.4 million people being unemployed. That was from February of 2020. After March, at the end of March, there were 7.1 million people unemployed. 7.1 million. We went from 1.4 million to 7.1 million. That's a 5.7 million increase. So just in the month of March, there were 5.7 million people that became unemployed. And there's a plethora of ways you become unemployed. You get terminated, you get furloughed, you get laid off, you just quit, you get terminated, whatever it is. 5.7 million people. That's the largest increase, again, purely per the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the largest increase since January of 1975, 45 years ago. Okay? So it's been 45 years since we've seen that type of increase. Let me break that down even further for y'all. In March, the unemployment rate jumped to 4.4%. That's 4% combined for men and women overall. 14.3% unemployment for teenagers. 4% for whites. 6.7% for blacks. 4.1% for Asians, and 6% for Hispanics. Okay, so that's just some of the statistics, and you can see them right here. Again, if you're watching on the video, you can see 4.4%. You can see the 1.4 to 7.1 million in March. All that is here when you go to BLS.gov, which is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, so that's already telling you, that's the obvious, right? Unfortunately, that's what's going on right now, is you've got a lot of people being impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic that is impacting everyone personally and professionally on a global basis. All right. Now, shortly, a local team here with Vining Sparks, which is a local brokerage, kind of more of a boutique brokerage here based in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'll look to have their chief economist on one of the episodes here very soon. But something I want to share with you as it relates to uh, with Vining Sparks. And so COVID essentially poked the bear, according to them. And they're going to have a call here probably in a little less, or actually a little more than 30 minutes. It poked the bear because as COVID-19 broke out, as far as outside of China, the equity market collapsed. Right now, the bond market kind of started to shoot up, but you had lower rates because of the Fed lowering interest rates in March. But if you look here, and again, for those that are listening to the podcast, again, forgive me, but you had just basically a stark drop in equity participation in March. I mean, stark drop. It basically plunged. Okay, plunged. I mean, China's gone dark. Tourism is basically halted. We're on, stay-at-home mandates. Everybody's walking around with masks and gloves and that sort of thing. And one of the things you look back on is from a national level, from a state level, and even from a local level, we didn't take this serious enough, this being the pandemic, in my opinion. We didn't take this serious enough from the jump, okay? If we had taken this a little more serious from the jump, and what I mean by take it more serious is if we had been very intentional, very diligent about the stay-at-home mandates and eliminating or freezing the things that make people have to move outside of their leisure. People are moving because they've got debt, they got bills to pay. So those that are fortunate to be able to go to work, whether that's from home or going out, if you're an essential business, you're going out to do that because you've got debts to pay, right? If we had been serious about mitigating or eliminating the things that make people have to move outside of leisure, we could have had the lockdown, and more than likely, again, I'm not a medical professional, but more than likely, we would have been out of this by now, okay? We would have been out of this by now. Because after 2 or 3 weeks of not having the social contact, likelihood is this virus kind of passes on, dissipates, and then basically what you're doing then is locking down the international border for some time so you don't have people coming in and out, bringing it back in. That didn't happen, and so here we are, okay? Here we are. So the restaurant industry, as you can see here, with restaurants and diners plunging, okay? Just plunging. A big thing is dining habits shifting. Grocery deliveries are shot up. As you can see, it's shot up from, in terms of Google searches, 100 times fold, from being less than 10% of searches heading into March. Now grocery delivery searches has surged. Restaurant reservations from February 14th, which was Valentine's Day, was at its peak, as you could imagine. It dropped like a rock from Valentine's Day all the way down to, nearly next to zero right now. And this is nationwide, real information. You all know that I travel a good bit in the Midwest and kind of around from a bank consulting standpoint. That season, my last trip obviously was in Orlando early in March. I've had to cancel basically all trips, of course, for April, as most people have. But as you can see here, basically the no-fly zone has dropped from roughly around March the 12th, March the 13th. You had a stark drop in TSA checkpoint passengers. And if you look at that year over year, it's not even close, right? Because you're talking completely different times. All right. Like I talked about earlier, jobless claims shooting up through the roof last month and so forth. So this is a nice deck that I'm showing here if you're watching the video. If you want a copy of this, email me, ron@themybpodcast.com, and I'm happy to share that information with you, okay? So here's the deal. Let me share with you my prediction, and then let me share with you what we can all be doing, all right? My prediction is this. Unfortunately, and I don't say this from a pessimistic standpoint, just trying to be as authentic as I can. Um, People, but then certainly Americans, can be very stubborn. We can be very short-sighted. We can be very self-absorbed as a collective. All right. So right now, most states and most places have the stay-at-home mandate through the end of April. All right. Then there's going to be some reassessment. You have sports league commissioners speaking to the president recently about how they can get seasons and playoffs and championship rounds and things like that continuing to move forward and progress for obvious reasons. Okay, for everybody, we all want to get back to uh, some reasonable normalcy on whatever we call that. But in my opinion, there's no normacy. All right. This is changing things. That's going to change things going forward, even as it starts to subside. Man versus virus is not new. All right. That's been since the beginning of time. All right. So it's going to subside. It's not going to just go away completely. It's going to subside. We'll have vaccines for it, all that type of thing. Here's my prediction. In May, we're going to try, we being the United States of America, as a collective, we're going to try to get back to some level of quote unquote normalcy. We're going to experience setbacks in doing that because the social distancing, the mask, and all that type of thing, they're going to help. But you still have people not adhering to those things and still going out without them, still interacting with people. Like in grocery stores, you're still going down the same aisle as somebody else, and people are still going to work and interacting with people. And so because of that, gas station, the things that are essential, people are still having some sort of interaction, even less than 6 feet apart. So we're going to try to open things back up, and then we're going to experience some setbacks. People are going to then begin catching the virus, doing that type of thing as we try to rev this up. Now, I know some of y'all, well, Champ Ron, that's being negative. We got to be positive. I'm being positive. I'm sharing the real. All right. Just because I say it doesn't mean that's what it's going to be. This is my opinion. This is my prediction. All right. If I was that powerful, trust me, I'd say a whole lot of stuff that would be. I'd snap my fingers and be a whole lot of stuff. But that's not the case, right? So, speaking things in existence doesn't just correlate with negativity, like most people think. So anyway, in May, we're going to try. There's going to be a setback, and we're going to have to revert back. From the setback, we'll have to revert back. And I think that what that's going to do in the positive is it's going to help us collectively realize that this is serious. This ain't just no trend or no fad. This is serious. It's serious not to be, again, negative, not to be in fear, but we have to be strategic and we've got to be smart. And being strategic and smart isn't always comfortable, right? It's not comfortable. It doesn't always get us what we want, but it's necessary. So in May, we'll have a setback and we'll have to revert back, okay? Hopefully, we get serious about what's going on. People catching the virus, unfortunately, people transitioning life and dying from the virus. I've had, some folks that are close to me that have been impacted by that, by the mortality that the virus impacts, which is extremely unfortunate. And then unfortunate how it impacts even the reverence of, funerals and things like that, because we're not in position to get together as a collective yet. But I think it's going to be some pain in going through the summer months, which are normally months for travel, normally months for leisure, normally months for vacation, normally months where kids are out of school and kind of doing their thing. I think it's going to be difficult on us through the summer months as we're going to be still on these stay-at-home mandates and having to really take a look in the mirror as a country and really get serious about this virus and this pandemic. On the flip side of that, unfortunately, like I mentioned about unemployment, there'll still be some impact from companies and individuals and small business, even with the trillions of dollars that is going around for this aid that the government's putting out there for small businesses, for individuals, and the sort. There's going to be setbacks in that, okay? And people are going to get their money and things like that. But if you haven't froze the debt, then you haven't given people enough of an incentive or reason to not go out. Because if I still got to get food, I still got to get supplies, and you still got major debt still due, because even though you may freeze student loan interest, it's still accruing. Even though you freeze utilities and you're not going to cut them off, that's the okie doke, right? Because if I'm not paying, that's still accruing. So I still have the debt. You're just not cutting it off for non-payment, which is part of the social good. However, if you go month after month without paying the utility bill, or the car note, or the mortgage, or whatever, they still have things accruing and you're still going to owe that debt. You know that, so then you still got to go to work or whatever it is, to your business, whatever it is that you're doing. And so with that pressure still out there, people are still going to make those personal, professional, and economic decisions, right? So that has to be addressed if you're going to get serious about getting past the pandemic. Otherwise, it's always going to be there. And then you've got to make a decision on, do you defy it and let it impact who it's going to impact? Then it becomes a pandemic to the level of like yellow fever and some of that stuff you read about, in the past, 100, 200 years ago, where things like this come in and wipe out a third or 2/3 of the population. Okay? So what can we all be doing? So that's my prediction. My prediction is, I think we'll get serious about this summer, and we're going to come out of this in a staged standpoint. We're going to come out of this probably more fully in the August, September range, because I think it's going to take us the summer to really get serious about this, unfortunately. Now, when I say get serious, I'm not talking about each individual, because each individual makes their own decisions, and many of you are taking this extremely seriously. I'm talking about as a collective, as a country, and even sometimes as states and as counties and cities and towns and parishes and that sort of thing. We will get to a point where we take this extremely seriously, and decisions are going to have to be made that may impede on people's basic civil liberties, or what we call civil liberties, to fight something that's a real pandemic. Something that's funny about this whole thing is you have people that called it a hoax and people that called it all kinds of different things. It's 5G towers. It's the Illuminati. It's it was designed to do this and designed to do that. So you got the conspiracy theorists that come out, and the people that just spit in the face of it. But it's funny that those folks then turn around and ask you about how they can get their hands on free money. So it's a hoax, Ron. It's not this, it's not that. I talked about this on social media and had some laughs with some folks because people were really doing this. Literally one day, it's a hoax, it's a so-called pandemic, all that type of thing. Literally the next day, excuse me, the next day, after calling it a hoax, literally, Ron, how can I, what's the criteria for the $1,200 incentive? Right? How do I get it? Now, Ron, I don't really want it. I'm not looking for it. I'm not expecting it. But how do I get it? Right? Literally the next day, when the SBA stuff comes out last week and gets approved. Ron, how do I get the SBA loan? Which one do I go with? Can I go to my bank? Can I do the blah, 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 questions, right? For people that call it a hoax. who haven't even been impacted by it, because in many cases with their business, they haven't even done any revenue, right? So again, I say that not to down people or to put people off, but speak to the hypocrisy of what happens with us when we've got this duality, right? And how they get exposed and how people won't admit that they have it. It's okay to be a capitalist. Like some of my guys and girls have said, capitalism is not indicted in this. It's how people run it and administer it, right? Capitalism works in its essential theory. What happens is human beings who an old economics professor told me are fundamentally evil, fundamentally do not always make decisions in their best interest, right? And so because of that, the human being's mindset is greed. For myself, that becomes extreme. Greed is okay. But greed at the expense of the next man or woman is not, in my opinion. So what happens is we hoard, right? And we determine our power based on what I have and my relationships and who I know. And we do that often at the expense of the next man or woman, boy or girl, mammal, animal, whatever. And so when we do that, you create inequity. That's done by people. That's not done by capitalism. That's done by people. So people thinking in a capitalistic mindset is fine. It's just the hypocrisy then becomes interesting. One day it's a hoax. The next day, if there's some money to get from the so-called hoax, I want that. So August or September, y'all, is going to be when I predict that will come from this. So now you're asking, okay, Champ Brown, what do we do in the meantime? What could we be doing as an individual? I can't control what happens in Washington. I can't control what happens in the State House. Not at this time. You can when election time comes. So remember that. Hiring managers. That's what I call the people of America are hiring managers. You hire these folks in these offices. So remember that when it's time to make the next hire. What could we be doing in the meantime? 5.7 million people have been impacted and now have found themselves unemployed for whatever reason. Most of it due to this pandemic that they had again, you can't predict this. This is not anybody's fault per se, down to the individual. What you can be doing is a couple things. One, I know everybody with a tongue in their mouth and a beating heart in their chest is telling you to wash their hands and put the mask on and social distancing and all that type of thing. So I'm not going to go through that because I don't want to be the billionth and first person to tell you that, as if you don't know that. And those are things you should have been doing before the pandemic. So we know that. So beyond those things, what you can be doing is, if you are in career transition, you should be active right now. There are companies looking for talent. Now, the companies looking for that talent may not be in your wheelhouse or may not be in the industry that you've been in. That's what happens when these things, pandemics and things like that, impact the world or the country, is there's a shift. World War II created a shift. World War I created a shift. Vietnam created shifts. Okay? So what I share with you is be looking at companies that are posting jobs now. Search in your city, wherever you want to be, on whatever platform you use, and look at positions and roles that have been posted in the last 24 hours, in the last 48 hours. I mean, heck, even within the last week. Those are people that are serious looking for talent. Work on your resume. Get with somebody. A lot of people are at home right now. Get with somebody that you feel can help you with your resume. Use Zoom to practice presenting your elevator speech, and to do mock interviews. Your interview is more than likely, matter of fact, I almost guarantee it's going to be virtual through WebEx, GoToMeeting, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whatever it is. So practice that. Be dressed appropriately, certainly on your top, and be prepared to look how to look into the camera, how to project, make sure your internet is working correctly, make sure the device that you're on is prepared and ready to go. You got the driver downloaded, whatever it is, and practice. If you don't have anybody to practice with, get on Zoom yourself or get on one of these things yourself and look at yourself on the camera. Record it, answer questions, and then go back and watch it, and then assess what you're doing, assess your verbiage, assess your projection of your voice, assess how you appear, right? Assess your conciseness and with your detail. And then just practice. That's a great thing you could be doing right now. Skill building. Now's the time. You're at home, look to build a skill or two. Get better with your computer skills. Get better with whatever it is. Look for online courses where you can get certificates. Add those to your resume. Add those to your LinkedIn. Okay? So be active in that sense. If you're working from home, be active. Communicate with your office. Communicate with who you need to. You can't over-communicate enough when you're working remote, because for many companies, this is new culture and new territory. And a lot of leaders are just now getting the sense of being able to work with their teams remotely. It's not something that they're used to, because they're used to having the face-to-face eye contact, because it's part of their trust. They don't have trust with people that are away, because they think everybody's goofing off and, you know, that sort of thing when you're not in the office, and they can't monitor you. All right. So your communication will help you stand out, not every 5 minutes, but just communicate once a day. Send an update. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I've accomplished. Here's where I need help with, you know, that sort of thing. Concise that into one communication, whether that's a phone call or email, instant messenger, whatever that is. All right. If you're interested in getting a second form of income, listen to me close. Now is the time. Look at these essential businesses. Everybody's telling you what's considered quote unquote essential and what's not essential. Look at that. Look at your skill set. Mirror those together. As an example, I've done that. I do this podcast. I launched 2 weeks ago, Brand Pod. I'm already doing business with it. Right? Brand Pod allows me to consult businesses and individual brands to help them launch their own podcast platform, which is going to allow them to connect with their customer that's not always on social media. Keep in mind, y'all, everybody that will want to do business with y'all is not on your Facebook. Just talking to the same people over and over again is not going to help you generate anything new. You can't talk to the same old people and get new results. You know what I mean? You got to get out there with people. There are millions and millions and millions of people that are not obviously on your Facebook. They're not on your Instagram. They're not watching your TikTok videos. Okay? They're not even on your LinkedIn. So if you're looking to launch a second form of income, look at, again, what's essential. Look at your skill set. If there's gaps there, again, go back to what I said earlier. Look at how you can build new skills and get certified in things. Be legit out here. All right? Reach out in your network. Find out where problems are. What are people having problems with right now? They're working from home. They got kids at home, some people. Shout out to the people. My heart goes out to the people that got young children right now. MYB, those of y'all that are at home working and you've got newborns, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, I feel for you all. My heart goes out to you. Best believe me. I've been there. Now, not during this type of pandemic. Right now, my girls are 10, almost 9, and almost 8. Right? So they're a little more self-sufficient. They can kind of do their own thing. But to be there and at home nursing or kind of taking care of a young one, or a senior member of the family, or just a family member in general that you're caring for, that's not able to do on their own, my heart goes out to you for sure. All right. But take this time now, work on things personally. Everything's not about grinding, right? Now is a great time to get some rest. One of the things I've been looking to do is I've been working, having a pretty tight schedule, and then looking to get some rest. Spend time with your family, spend time with your spouse. Don't walk the dog all day. Dog tired of some of y'all. Okay. Dog's tired of some of y'all walking them all the time and, always around. Don't even get a chance to miss you anymore because you're always there. I mean, I've been here with my dog now almost 3 weeks. No, he tired of us. me and my daughter is here all day, every day. He can't sleep because someone's always moving around doing something. All right. So definitely get out, get some sun, get some exercise, around your house. If you want to go on a quick walk through your neighborhood, so be it. But let's practice the social distancing. Look at your skills on what you're building. All right. Now's a great opportunity for that. It's a great opportunity to do some things personally around the house, clean that garage, fix the deck, stain the deck, make sure the grass is cut, plant some flowers, take down a small tree, call a loved one that you haven't spoken to in a while, call or text them, FaceTime them, reach out to people in your business network that you've met in passing. Just reach out and just be a sounding board. It's not about checking in. It's not about trying to sell them anything or trying to get them on your webinar or sell your book or any of that type of stuff. Just be a sounding board and offer to be a resource to them in whatever way that you can. That'll go a long way when this is over. People will remember you, not for your sales approach. They will remember you for being a human being, right? And being there for them or offering to be there for them during what's an unprecedented and uncertain time that we live in now. All right. So again, don't forget your skill building. Don't forget your family and your friends. Remember, social distancing, not social disregard. Okay? Don't forget to check in with your team, whether it's your business team or it's at your workplace. Don't ghost them. Be on those video conferences and meetings. Get there a few minutes early. Have your video on. All right. I know some of y'all don't like to show your video and all that. Listen, if you were born after 1950, everybody's already got your information. They already seen how you looked at. Like, all right. So relax. Okay. Turn your video on. Right. Because now, like I say, again, your employer, your supervisors, your executives, they're taking note of who's doing what. And don't be surprised if some of these people, if you're VPN through their network, have downloaded on your laptop or on your computer tracking software that you may not know about. Some employers, especially some large employers, may have done that. And they may be watching to see when you're online and what you're doing. So don't play your game, okay? But now's a perfect opportunity. If you've been impacted and you're without employment right now, file for unemployment. File for the assistance as you need it, and then look at this as an opportunity for you to form relationships and look at what's essential out here and go get it. And then be mindful of your mental health too. Like I say, get some sun. If you need to talk with somebody, reach out to somebody. If you feel like you're struggling, it's hard dealing with the kids at home. It's hard dealing with the spouse and all that type of thing, or mom and dad, or sister, brother, cousin, uncle, aunt, or just your own mental state. You're just fearful. You're just scared. You have a lot of anxiety. Reach out for help. Okay, and be proactive with that. We all are going through this. This is a human deal. This is not Democrat, Republican. This is not black, white. This is not anything other than, it's not male, female. This is human. And we will get through it together as human beings and the rest. But know that things are going to be different. And your ability to pivot and your ability to adapt is going to really come into play right now more than ever. All right? Listen, thank y'all so much for checking out this episode 142. I wish you all the very best personally and professionally. Be safe, be smart, be strategic, and do what you got to do to be good for yourself, be good for your family, and be good for your community. All right. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast. Subscribe, listen, 5-star, wherever you get your pods, but especially on Apple Podcasts. That helps us continue to move the movement. We are powered by the Binge podcast network. Shout out to the entire Binge lineup, including our flagship show, the Startup Life podcast with Dominic Lawson and Kendall Lawson, the dynamic duo with Owls LLC. Shout out to them, doing big things, man, getting on across the country. I'm doing the same there in the state of Michigan and Illinois, which are great states for me. Shout out to both of those states. They've been good for Brand Pod and for the Minding Your Business podcast. I'd love to be a resource for you. Email me, ron@themybpodcast.com. You can connect. We have the MYB community group on Facebook. Email me. I'll get you a link. Love to connect with you there. We share good content there. Got people that are very active there as well. All right. Champ Ron, Minding Your Business podcast. You all go be great. I'll see y'all next time.